Hi there, welcome to my channel. I'm the Evil Blonde, and today I want to talk about another possibly evil blonde, Lizzy Saltzman from Legacies. Episode 10 of season 4 has already dropped, and if you haven't watched it, or for that matter, if you haven't watched episode 8 and 9, I suggest you pause right here, go and watch those episodes, and then come back because a lot of what I'm going to discuss today has to do with what happened in these 3 episodes. Is uh, I won't say the culmination, but a very, very interesting turn in the life of Lizzie Saltzman, one of my favorite fictional blondes out there. So I'm going to give you a fair warning, a spoiler alert. I'm going to count till 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Lizzie Saltzman has now become a heretic. How cool is that? Now it sounds very strange to those who are not very familiar with, the entire vampire universe, or vampires as we, or at least as I refer to it. It is the entire universe that began with the Vampire Diaries and moved on to the originals and eventually now the Legacies. Or just Legacies, sorry. Why did I add the? Anyway, point is that Lizzie hasn't had an easy journey. Although Legacies is, in terms of style and tone and tenor, a lighter show, it had a Monster of the Week format. It had that whole Harry Potter appeal because it's about a school for vampires, witches, and werewolves. And then there was a fairy, and apparently one of the vampires now has dragon powers. And it's a little insane, but it's a lot of fun. And I know a lot of people have criticized the show for having this lighter tone, but I love it because, I think every show deserves to have its own personality. The Vampire Diaries was all about, the sexiness of vampirism and uh, relationship drama, etc. When it came to the originals, it was darker. It was about dealing with family and the concept of betrayal within family, and how eventually there are some people you can trust, and love, especially unconditional love. So this show, it is literally the legacy of those 2 shows. And there was a lot of pressure, but I'm just so glad the showrunners decided to take a completely different tone with this show. And one of the characters who has helped establish that is Lizzie Saltzman, played wonderfully by the ridiculously talented Jenny Boyd. I don't think Lizzie would have been the same if anyone else were playing her. Now, Lizzie began as this young woman in her teens who was dealing with mental illness. And it has been spoken about very openly on the show, and that is another thing I appreciate about the show. That they talk about mental illness and they show her journey in overcoming the challenges her brain chemistry poses for her, whether it is taking medication or going to therapy, or taking a break and going to meet Caroline, who's apparently in Europe now, trying to find a cure or trying to find a solution to the whole Gemini, what's it called, merge problem. Uh, so Lizzie has had this whole journey, and throughout it all, she's also been the one character who has contributed significantly to the humor on the show, whether it is her snarky commentary or, all those nerdy remarks, which MG interestingly calls her out on when he says she's got to be a secret Tolkien fan if she has all of those references, which she keeps using for Landon. So good job, MG. It is this nerdy and slightly, I wouldn't say ditzy, but um, I'm not really sure if I have the right adjective here. But Lizzie has always been one of my favorites. And now there's been, or at least I was afraid that there will be a marked transformation in her, because when she went into the therapy box and she discovered that the solution to the hope problem was for her to turn into a heretic, it scared me a bit. Because as it is in season 4, Legacies as the show has changed a bit of its tone and tenor. I don't know if it's because of the pressure created by viewers who were criticizing the show for being lighter in tone, or is it because, Hope has lost her humanity? I mean, if you forget for a second that Hope is the name of a character, and when you say loss of humanity, you're referring to a switch and a vampire. Just if you take the sentence and the words in it, Hope has lost humanity, it sounds really bleak. And I was terrified that if Lizzie turns into a vampire, what would the ramifications be? They say that everything is a little heightened when you become a vampire. And Lizzie has been struggling with mental illness. So, how would that affect her personality, her thought process once she becomes a vampire? I've been very curious about that. The second thing I'd been thinking about was, would she also become darker in tone and tenor as a character? Would we lose her humorous side? Because that would be a loss. And I'm happy to tell you that hasn't happened. Yay! Oh my god, showrunners, thank you so much for not altering Lizzie in a very dramatic way. I mean, sure, there are newer shades added to her character, but she still has a lot of Lizzie in her, and the vampire side is just an extension of who she is. In fact, when it comes to the whole mental illness part, I'm so glad they addressed that in season 4, episode 10 again, when Professor Bartimus talks to her about vampires feeling everything in a very heightened way. And she responds saying, well, my emotions have always been a little heightened. So, in a sense, she was, I would say, born to be a vampire, but it kind of reminded me a bit about the Hulk in the Avengers when he decides to, wear the Infinity Gauntlet and he says it's mainly gamma radiation. It's like I was born to do this. I was like, oh my God, Lizzie's mind has literally been the ideal vampire brain. And I'm glad she's getting to use it now. And things are not affecting her that much. And I had initial concerns because, that whole episode in the therapy box, although it had a lot of humorous moments, but after that, I saw this slight coldness in Lizzie. And I was terrified that my happy, summery, sweet blonde ray of sunshine would suddenly turn into Elsa. And again, I've got nothing against Elsa. You rock, sister, you have ice powers, but Lizzie Saltzman is not Elsa, and I was terrified they would turn her into one, but I'm glad they didn't. She did retain the humorous side, as I was saying, those of you who watch the show. As soon as she activates her vampirism, she tries to run and runs into a door. And when you think about it, if you are an untrained vampire, if you don't really know what to expect at this, I mean, even if you've had people around you who are vampires, no one can really, no one can really help you navigate those first few initial moments. You have to discover things on your own. And I'm glad Lizzie had that one moment, and then she confessed that, okay, this is embarrassing. And then also another moment where she says, she tries to revive Professor Bartimus and bites into her wrist and goes, ow, that was harder than some people make it look. And that was a masterstroke. I love that because that again reminded me of Lizzie's humor. And I'm so glad we're seeing vampirism through the eyes of Lizzie because I think that's the closest we can all come to viewing vampirism from the human perspective. Lizzie has always been wonderfully flawed, and it's not because of her mental illness. No, it's because of who she is in terms of the decisions she makes. She's not, snarky because of her mental illness. She's snarky because that's who she is. All those, I wouldn't say rude jibes, but she does put people down, and that's just a part of her nature. So I'm glad in a way that she's retained all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the challenging, and I can't wait to see what happens next with Lizzie Saltzman. There is an interesting twist, I'm not going to reveal that, but as Professor Bartimus says, it adds a new dimension to Lizzie and Hope's dynamic. And that is what gave us a glimpse into who Hope is these days. Sure, she's shut off her humanity and she's able to think clearly enough to recognize that shutting off her humanity has made her reckless. And despite that, she did not kill either Josie or Lizzie. She had the chance to do it when she went to the school. Uh, and first she encounters Dark Josie, and Dark Josie fights her, and then when she falls on the ground, she transforms into regular Josie. And Hope looks at her, and for a second, my shipper heart skipped a beat because, oh my god, I have been shipping Hosey forever. And I was a little disappointed that Josie's character, was written out of the show because, well, the actress left the show. I hope to bring her back for some, I don't know, maybe penultimate episode or some interesting episode where you need to see some twin action because we can't really avoid the whole merge thing, or can we? Now that Lizzie is a heretic, is the merge possible? Is it required? Was that a loophole that one of them has to become a vampire? That's the only way to escape a merge? I don't know. But anyway, uh, coming back to see, this is what happens. I lose track of things. I say something and I forget all about it. Right, Hope. So Hope did not kill Josie, and Hope did not kill Lizzie either. And that shows that deep down inside, she still loves them. Her humanity may be off, but I think it's a bit more like how, I don't remember if it was Damon or if it was Alaric who described Stefan's humanity being on a dimmer switch when he had turned off his humanity and gone off with Klaus and was having all of those adventures. Because at the end of the day, we have to remember that Hope is a hero. She has worked so hard to make sure that the legacy of the Michelson family is not spoiled. People still say mean things about her father, that he was the most evil person ever, and she has tried to redeem the entire family's name by becoming the best version of herself and recognizing that it comes not just from her mother Haley, who was an extraordinary werewolf alpha, a leader, a wonderful mother, a great human being, but also from Klaus, who eventually learned that he could love someone unconditionally when Hope was born. So Klaus had good in him, and there's evidence of that in the decisions Hope makes. And that is what gives me hope. I know. Too many hope puns. I think every single hope pun has been done to death, but trust me, every time I'm going to do a video on Legacies, and I'm going to do a whole bunch of them, there will be at least one hope pun. Oh, there is a new hottie in town. I don't know if I should spoil that because honestly, this is not an episode review. You know what? Go watch the show and tell me what you think about the latest twist. All I'm going to tell you is that what began as a version of Harry Potter might now just become a version of Percy Jackson. And I don't know yet how I feel about it. I mean, they cast someone incredibly attractive, and he has an interesting backstory. But I have this feeling in the pit of my stomach that he isn't exactly the Mr. Goody Two Shoes he's projecting himself as. There is another character, someone who can fly. Yeah, go watch the show if you haven't. Believe me, it's totally worth it. I think the story has taken an interesting turn, but it's still rooted in the tradition of the Vampire Diaries and the originals, where it is mainly carried forward by two people who are anchoring the show. In the Vampire Diaries, it was the brothers Stefan and Damon Salvatore. In the originals, it was again two brothers, Klaus and Elijah Michelson. And now, in Legacies, it is two extremely powerful female characters, Lizzy Saltzman, who is a hybrid, and Hope Michelson, who is the only tribrid. In fact, at one point on the show, Lizzie refers to her as the bybrid to Hope's tribrid. It was it was a little silly, but it was also something you'd expect Lizzie to say. And that is again, one of the things I love about her, and that is one of the reasons Lizzie keeps me invested in this show, apart from a lot of other extraordinary stuff. So I'm really feeling upbeat about where the show is headed. I want to find out what happens next to all of my favorite characters, Lizzie and Hope and MG and Caleb. Oh my God, Caleb. How have I gone so far without talking about Caleb? Now, it's obvious I have a bit of a crush on him, but then who doesn't? I mean, Chris Lee has the voice of an angel. And I'd like to see more of him, more of Chris Lee singing. I don't know if there is some contractual thing that prevents him from doing that, because I know he does a lot of theater where he's primarily doing all of the singing. But yes, the 2 episodes where he sang, those were awesome. And give me more Caleb is all I'm saying. Um, Finally, Papa Saltzman and the Necromancer and Landon, they have this whole story going on in limbo, I think they're referring to it. It's not quite the afterlife. They're trying to get to peace and having their own introspective journey of sorts. And I think that is also something that has helped anchor the show. Uh, there is some humor, of course, because we're dealing with the necromancer. I can't say that right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I even tried. Okay, let me try one more time. The necromancer. Sorry, sorry. No, I won't do it again. The necromancer. Okay, so that was it. I promise that was it. So those three are having quite an introspective journey, and I hope at least one of them makes it back. I want the necromancer to find peace. I want him to, get on that boat and go away. Landon is, Mr. McDreamy, the ideal boyfriend material, and Hope has a soft spot for him. And Hope without Landon and Landon without Hope, uh, they're both missing a part of their souls. And I'm a sucker for love stories. I love love. So I want them to get together. But then again, I don't want Alaric to die. I mean, he's died and come back like 1,000 times. I think in the entire Vampverse, he's probably the character who's died and come back the most number of times. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Speaking of comments, let me know what you think of this video and about the new changes taking place on Legacies, the evolution of characters, especially Lizzy Saltzman. Write to me in the comments section, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.